It's day 5, I'm going to Alcatraz and we've got to go up this steep hill.
Hey guys, we're walking down Lombard Street again. We've been down here 3 times now, well twice, once up, 2's down. And it's steep, isn't it, man?
Yeah.
This is where it's called the Crooked Road, because it's all crookedy.
Pensa que só fora.
Yeah?
Listen.
Don't give it any more, man.
We invite you to explore its multi-layered history. You'll walk in the footsteps of America's most dangerous criminals and the men who guarded them. Hear their voices.
Putting your headphones on?
I was making them smaller or massive.
Oh, with the red.
The first thing you want to learn when you hit Alcatraz is keep your mouth shut, walk with your back to the wall.
I'm Pat Mahoney, former Alcatraz correctional officer, and I'll be your guide. I served 7 years on the Rock. The Alcatraz cell house opened as a federal prison in 1934. Within these walls lived the country's toughest, most dangerous, and most famous prisoners.
Well, here's a typical Alcatraz cell. Every one of them in the cell house exactly like.
I had a metal tabletop and a little chair there, and that was about it. The cell was pretty barren.
5 feet wide, 9 feet long, and 7 feet high.
Waiting on the bed for each new prisoner was a copy of the official rules and regulations.
Alcatraz is always classed as the end of the line, the point of no return. It's like going into the ground. You know, when you're buried, you're gone forever.
Prisoners had a decision to make, whether to obey the rules or not, to do good time or bad time. That decision affected their lives dramatically.
An inmate is given housing, good food, medical attention, and all the necessities of life.
Everything else was a privilege. Time to exercise outside, getting books and mail, all had to be earned. One of their favorite privileges was the recreation yard.
The most pleasant place, I believe, on Alcatraz, and the most appreciated. The handball court, the horseshoe court.
Prisoners also played bridge out in the yard. They used dominoes instead of cards.
You get smaller as you go up. Yeah, all the thingies are set on here. You know,
Prisoners who chose not to behave ended up in a harsher place, isolation. D Block was the prison within Alcatraz, the treatment unit.
This place is going to operate on the basis that you do what you're told, and you're going to get a fair break. If you don't behave yourself, we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Unruly or violent prisoners were sent here. They stayed in their cells 24 hours a day. Typically, they were only allowed out once a week for a shower and exercise.
Now, in this cell block, we have 42 of the least popular cells in Alcatraz. Although by far they are the best, the roomiest, and the nicest state-of-the-art cells that were available in this prison.
It was cold, it was damp, the wind used to just blow through there. You could hear it, at night you could hear it whistling through the windows.
One of the more infamous prisoners to live here in D Block was convicted killer Robert Stroud, the so-called Birdman.
And almost immediately upon his arrival at Alcatraz, he was relegated to the treatment unit. And he didn't bring his birds along with him, which made him very unhappy.
This was solitary confinement, the whole, cells 9 through 14.
When the cell was occupied, the regulations required that the light be on.
But we kept the lights off when they were in there.
This was the prison library.
You put your request on a library card. If the book was available, they'd bring it and put it in the bars for you.
Prisoners with reading privileges could subscribe to approved magazines.
And if it had some story about some convict out of Nebraska or something, that was cut out. Never mind that you might have been reading a serial and it was on the back of one of them pages.
Prisoners who behaved could also take correspondence courses.
Took a course from the University of Pennsylvania on animal husbandry. The gestation period for a pig is 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days.
C and D block. They call it CD Street or C and D.
In May of 1946, an inmate named Bernie Coy, along with 5 accomplices, decided they would escape to freedom.
Alcatraz was built to keep every inmate directly under a gun.
Find the pictures of the escapees and look at the bar spread.
You had a man on the catwalk, gun gallery, and he carried a rifle and a pistol. Anyway, this gun gallery was more or less overseeing the whole prison.
To escape, Bernie Coy knew he needed the keys in the gun gallery. Coy used his homemade bar spreader.
He spread the bars apart, wide enough so that he could squeeze into the gallery.
None of the keys worked.
You sure you don't know what key opens this control box?
8 officers were captured and locked up in these cells.
He shot them in cold blood, one by one.
For 2 days, the Marines and correctional officers bombarded the cell house.
And we decided that the escapees were dead. We found them there in the utility quarter. They were firing their guns as they died.
I used to do a lot of oil paintings on Alcatraz. If I was painting a scene of the Swiss Alps or something like that, hey, I'm right up there skiing as I'm painting, and I used to escape that way.
My grandmother taught me how to crochet when I was a kid. So I taught a lot of guys how to crochet. Big tough guys sitting in there with a needle and crocheting.
At nighttime, between 6:30 and 7:30, they have what they call a music hour. They play harmonicas or a guitar or whatnot. They had one guy over there, and he used to play one of these slide trombones.
Mommy, it's that guy's cell, you know. It's that guy's cell we like painting.
Yeah.
Look for 4 small windows in the wall on the right. They're marked Visitation.
And I walked up there, and here's this good-looking girl. I knew who she was when I got a real good look at her, and when she said Jimmy, which is what she always called me, so I knew it was my sis.
Once I saw Jimmy, it was, you know, he didn't look different, and he was overwhelmed, and we just, he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it, that we were there, and that I had grown up, and that I'd come to see him.
So to walk to left to go to the right.
Uniform was prison gray with a hat.
I wore a hat all the time.
Regular double-breasted uniform.
And they used to call you red ties because everybody in the place had this red tie on.
I carried a sap. We weren't supposed to, but many of us did. When you got done work, you just run down, catch the next boat, and you're in San Francisco in 12 minutes.
We all worked together. We all played together. We had 2 bowling alleys where we had bowling leagues.
We never locked our doors or anything on the island. Never.
You couldn't beat Alcatraz, the beautiful view there.
So there was never a day you didn't see what the hell you were losing and what you were missing. You know, it was all there for you to see. There's life. There's everything I want in my life, and it's there. It's a mile or a mile and a half away, and yet I can't get to it.
I recall getting in that water, and it was like a shock. Didn't expect it to be that cold. If you can do it, it's up to you. But you got to pay the price.
When they heard the escape sirens, every officer on the island rushed here to report for duty. 3 men were missing from the cell house.
The inmates are supposed to be dressed and up, standing in front of their doors for counts. Bill, there's a guy up here, I can't get up. And he was laying in there, so I reached in through the bars and I hit the pillow. And Lord knows what happened, the head fell off on the floor.
Prisoners Frank Lee Morris and 2 brothers, John and Clarence England, had escaped the night before. They made dummy heads to fool the officers. According to the reports, the men enlarged the vent openings in the back of their cells. The 3 men climbed up these pipes to the roof. The men have never been found.
Lights went out around 9:30 at night, and that was it.
It was dead quiet. Quiet like a mausoleum.
It was kind of scary walking around with dark tears, and some would sleep with their eyes open, some grind their teeth, some talking in their sleep.
You lay awake a long time.
3 times a day, all the men in general population gathered here for 20-minute meals. Imagine 200 plus men, each armed with a knife, fork, and spoon. This was potentially the most dangerous room in the cell house. Notice the knife rack on the left. The shape of each knife was outlined on the rack. This way, officers could tell immediately if one was missing. At the end of 3 decades, over 1,500 men had served time on the rock. By then, Alcatraz had served its own time. After years of harsh wind and weather, the buildings were badly deteriorated. The isolated island was too expensive to run. Goodbye, and thank you for visiting Alcatraz.